welcome to episode 42 of PauseCast. It is Thursday, the 8th of June, 2017. We missed a week, and I feel so bad. I'm Jessica Alouette, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Mark Henna, I use he, him, and I also feel bad. But welcome anyway.
We both just had, scheduling stuff to deal with, and, shit happens. That's boring, though. We're here to talk about the real shit. It's video games.
Yeah, the only real thing in the world is the things behind the screen.
It's the only tangible thing in the world right now is video games. You heard about them?
So,
I hear books are okay sometimes
books
too,
are
though.
pretty good. I do like books. But video games are okay sometimes.
You're real big on books.
I've made a habit the past couple of years of reading a bit pretty much every day, which just lets me plod through a bunch. So I've really enjoyed the habit. It's like, I think I mentioned sometime last year on the show that, that feeling when you open up Steam and you look through your list of games, you're like, I want to play something, but I don't know what, and you spend 20 minutes looking at your list of games. I don't know if that happens to other people.
All the time.
Yeah. I made myself a rule last year. If I find myself doing that, instead of spending 20 minutes looking through my list of games and not playing anything, stop, go read my book. And having a book I'm currently reading means I can always do that, and I don't have to choose which book because I'm reading this book.
Right.
That's worked quite well for me, and just, having a long series means when I finish this book, this one's next. I don't get another choice.
I feel like my biggest problem with getting into books is that I kind of end up treating them in the same way if I had a bunch of books, I'd probably end up treating them in the same way that I do video games, which is to say I would pick up a few of them at a time and do chunks, and that's not a good way to be reading a book.
That's hard, yeah. If you're the sort of person who might criticize linear video games, books might not be for you.
Yeah.
They're not, in terms of replayability, the same stuff happens. Spoiler.
Well, no, not true. Choose your own adventure books.
Okay, yeah, but I think the last time I read one of them, I was 7. Actually, I think I've mentioned that on the show before. I accidentally stole it from the school library because I never returned it.
Oops.
Yeah, it was the coolest book.
Marcus confessing to crimes live on the show. This whole thing has been an elaborate operation. We got you.
And when I finally managed to be the person who could check out this coolest book, I kind of lost it, and then I found it years later. So yeah, I think it's even still at my parents' place somewhere.
I wonder if does anybody make choose your own adventure books for adults?
I don't know. I mean, there's coloring books for adults. I wouldn't actually choose your own adventure books for adults. Sounds like something quite different to the children's variety.
Does it?
Adult choose your own adventure. Yeah, that's a different genre.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
I mean, you could say that adult choose your own adventure books are like the Dungeons and Dragons player's handbook that you get and then go and make your own adventure with other people.
I mean, yeah, that's...
So you don't need to be an adult to play it, I suppose. I just didn't start playing.
No, you don't, but there's it's mostly just kids' books, and that's a shame. You could do something with... I feel like you could do something compelling and tell an interesting story that is more either YA or adult focused in a choose your own adventure format, but it's not done.
I think by the time you get to that, you've got other media that might cover it better, such as video games, perhaps.
Yeah, I maybe that is it.
Because you're limited. Choose your own adventure is always if you do this, go to page X. If you do that, go to page Y. So, and you typically don't have hugely thick books in these because go to page 712 becomes a pain in the ass, and they're illustrated and stuff. So, I think I can understand why they're typically smaller and for kids. I don't know. Actually, do they still make them? I haven't seen them around. I don't know.
I think they do still make them. Here's an interesting thought. Yeah? Could something like the Shadowrun games or Baldur's Gate, stuff like that, could that fall into that category? Because those are
So
really text heavy.
Baldur's Gate is actually a D&D setting with D&D rules behind it.
Yeah,
and Shadowrun, of course, it's based on a different pen and paper game. So it's a similar kind of thing. We've got a setting and set of rules that comes from pen and paper turned into a video game. And
But I'm just thinking like in terms of their text heavy format.
right, yeah.
Just because they're so text heavy, it's a lot of reading. And I think I've mentioned before, like I would have been on one of the earlier episodes where I talked about like maybe settling down with a game like that as if it were a good like book. Kind of curl up with your copy of Baldur's Gate and play that by the fireside. Enjoy all the like reading and magic.
Yeah, maybe. Actually, one of the great things about those text-heavy games is that because they lack voice acting, it means that if you want to come in and write your own stories for them, and a lot of games like that have that capacity, at least ones that are made now, you don't need to worry about I need to go get voice acting so it's the same like level of polish as the original game, because you can just write the dialogue and it's the same as the other game. I think did I talk a few episodes ago about the DM mode in the next Divinity Original Sin game? I think it was in.
I believe so.
Yeah, that sort of thing seems really cool. I mean, that's like choose your own adventure, except your friend is choosing the adventure for you, kind of, or you're doing it collaboratively, which is really cool.
I think that's like I still think that's got the potential to be like a serious game changer for games kind of in general and like D&D games more specifically. I think it's got just the most potential. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the GM mode of Divinity Original Sin 2 does evolve.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as well, because I think I've mentioned before I run a D&D campaign with my flatmate and a couple of relatives. And I've started adding in extra stuff on the side. Like I've made a utility where I can pick an image on my laptop and it shows on the TV. Turns out that being a web developer has useful non-work skills as well. And there's this really cool website called mynoise.net that lets you like mix together a whole bunch of different sounds to create like an atmospheric background sound that can go on. And I used both of those together for the first time just last night. And I found it worked really well to just like be there in the background, reminding them constantly what sort of environment they're in. And they don't have to rely as heavily on memorizing my description of it or anything like that. So aids like that can really enhance a game, whereas, of course, the fact that the reaction to player input is coming from a person just means that it can be you have a lot more options than you do in a video game, where you've got a limited number of ways you can interact with the world. Like, okay, there is an interact button that does a certain thing with these things. You can pick up objects or you can shoot a bow, whereas if you're telling a person, I do this, or it's dialogue and you don't have 4 options to pick from, it's just what you say, that can have a lot more depth to it. And that, like, I think I mentioned when we were talking about the DM mode, you need a person at the other end to react to that stuff, really.
Yeah. On the note of, you mentioned earlier, like, text-heavy games and voice acting, and I actually wanted to bring up, and I'm going to bring this into what we've been playing.
Yeah.
Because I have been playing Read Only Memories with the 2064 expansion, which added a lot of voice acting to this super-duper text-heavy game, and I've found that it's actually really enhanced the experience. And I think the same is true of Persona 5 and Persona 4 as well. When the lines are actually being read by the characters, I feel like it's all enhanced by that
definitely
experience.
Agree. There are some games that have got partial voice acting. Like Final Fantasy games, often the main characters will be voice acted, but NPCs, only important ones will be, and others will be text.
Right.
I've been playing Fire Emblem Awakening, and it has voice acting in that when someone says something, they'll get a very quick line, which might be 1 or 2 words, and there's text you read. And sometimes, in certain moments, the words they say will be part of the text you read, but it's not exactly lined up all the time. So it's sort of partial voice acting. And definitely, I agree, when it's actually saying the words instead of just reading them, it does enhance the experience for sure. But you can have a lot more flexibility without needing so much production if you only text. is the sort of the flip side to that. And it really depends on what you're going for. So for a polished game, yeah, text acting. Voice acting is really good. I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's really changed how I look at ROM as well, because it means that everything has a voice, and I don't like, as much fun as it is to rely on my imagination, I don't like to have to do it all the time.
Do the characters all sound like you had anticipated?
No. And I feel like that's kind of delightful.
Are there any other interesting things like names pronounced differently to what you had in your head?
No, not so far.
That's something that often comes up when like books are turned into movies, and you've read the book, you're like, they're saying it weird, but you were saying it weird.
They've got some really great voice acting for ROM, so I'm thrilled with how the voice acting has enhanced the experience. They got Clementine from The Walking Dead to voice like one of the main characters.
I've never seen. Wait, The Walking Dead's a TV show, right?
The Walking Dead game.
Okay, I haven't seen the TV show or played the game, so
okay.
Cool.
I think I would recommend the first season of The Walking Dead.
It's
I won't recommend the second. Yeah, it's a Telltale game. I would recommend that first season of The Walking Dead. It's quite good.
Okay.
But they got one of the voice actors from the main character of that to also voice one of the main characters in Read Only Memories. They have another main character from The Walking Dead doing the narration.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. Dave Fennoy, if you're familiar with his work at all.
Me and names and having heard of people, you know who I am.
Now, that is fair. Dave Fennoy is pretty well known, though, within kind of games. He's done work on like the Elder Scrolls Online, Read Only Memories, the Mafia games, Mass Effect 2.
Oh, yeah? There's one I played.
He was Warlord Okier.
Yep, I remember him.
Okay,
I don't remember his
that's
voice.
Dave Fennoy.
He was a Krogan, so like his voice would have probably might have been adjusted even to make it sound more Krogan-y. I don't know.
More Krogan-y? I want you to explain what more Krogan-y is.
No, there's a similar sound between all of their voices. I don't like you know. It's particularly obvious with the Turians. It sounds like there's some sort of like digital overlay they've done to transform the voices to make them sound Turian.
Right.
Quarians have got a bit as well. Might be just because they're in suits to remind you of that. And it feels like there's a similar kind of texture to all the Krogan voices. I don't know if that's entirely from voice talent or if it's somehow manipulated after the fact.
Also in my now playing kind of situation right now, I've got Call of Duty World at War, which was several entries back.
Okay.
Set in the South Pacific and Russian theaters of World War II.
I'm guessing you're playing that single player if it's a few ones back?
I am playing that single player.
How's that going?
It's going quite well, actually. It's interesting to see the South Pacific front and the Russian front represented in a game. And I also appreciate earlier Call of Duties, they had a level of historical accuracy to their campaigns, and World at War maintains. I don't know how much, to be honest, but I'm glad that they didn't maintain one thing, which is how Japanese troops were constantly is perhaps the wrong word, but how they were referred to during the Second World War. That is not maintained, and I was relieved to see that.
The kind of American-Japanese relations sort of stuff. Right, yeah.
I'm glad that wasn't maintained. I'm having an interesting time with World at War. I kind of want to dive into the history surrounding it as well to see kind of what details do shine through. So I'd be interested in seeing that. Kiefer Sutherland is in that game, which I was immediately thrown off by. That was weird.
I know that name. Where do I know that name from?
He played Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Okay.
So that was interesting. Suddenly, Snake was in my Call of Duty. Um, what else is on my now playing? It's mostly just it's kind of been ROM. It's been that. It's been Overwatch. For all my frustrations and misgivings about Overwatch, I continue to play it. A little bit of Left 4 Dead, just because. How about you? What have you been
So
playing this week?
my laptop has not. The power cable is still broken, and I still haven't gotten the new one. Which means I haven't been able to really play anything on my laptop. It's been a matter of I can use it while it's not powered or while the power's like flashing on and off, which can't be good for it. And it gets throttled, so games will perform terribly, and the battery will just drain really quickly. So I've been like, when do you get against the wall in a corner at night, so that the power cable's held with pressure, so that it'll actually charge up again. But I've got my desktop working again, having borrowed a keyboard and screen that works from my flatmate. It's a 4x3 screen, so it's kind of weird to play on rather than 16:9.
Right.
And for that reason, I've been avoiding doing much more Mass Effect Andromeda single player, because I like taking screenshots, and I don't want to take a whole bunch of screenshots of story stuff at a weird aspect ratio and resolution to have in the mix, kind of. If that makes sense.
Did you recover all your screenshots?
I
from
did,
that,
yeah.
by the
So when
way?
I started my desktop up, I've got all my Mass Effect 3 screenshots, which is nice to have again. And I could look back through and be like, oh yeah, this stuff. That was real cool. But I have been playing a bunch more of the multiplayer, which has continued to be fun. Apparently, they've just done some updates in the latest couple of patches, which I'm looking forward to trying out. One is called for single player. The only gripe I really had going into Andromeda is I found the character creator to be a bit disappointing. But apparently, they've added more stuff to it, and also added the ability for you to change your appearance within the game. So, if you're already playing, you can take advantage of the new stuff. And if you mess something up, you can go in and change it, which you haven't been able to do in the past games. And I can understand why people might not think to put it in the first place, because it's like, they wouldn't go changing their appearance, but it's a really handy thing to have. It's like respecing your character, which you can do. So that's neat. And in terms of multiplayer, they've apparently added some of the packs you can buy, which now are focused on characters or weapons or weapon mods. So I've complained before, I think on the show, about how when you buy the packs, you might want characters and only get weapons or something. Now you can actually say, no, I want a bunch of characters. So hopefully that will help the unlock system not be as annoying. But I haven't had a chance to try that yet, because I just read those patch notes this afternoon and haven't started my desktop up since then. So that's what I've been doing while I'm at home. Now, while I was away over the weekend, didn't have my desktop with me, but I brought my 3DS up, and I asked my brother to bring Fire Emblem Awakening, which I lent to him like a year and a half ago or something when he got a 3DS. And I started playing that again, and within a day I was further than I'd gotten in it when I first played it. So that's been kind of fun. It's been nice having a tactics game again. One thing that had made me anxious is the right word, hesitant with it originally, it turns out was just, if I got a little bit further, that would have gone away. It was, so I've complained about XCOM a bunch, how it ramps up constantly, and I worried that it might be similar to that, and I might not have the chance to just go away and fight some weak stuff if I want to. Turns out you can do that. It has sustainable gameplay, let's say. Like, you can just keep doing it without progressing the story if you want to. So your weapons break, you can go buy some more, that sort of stuff. So I've been less worried about it since I got to the point where it's easy to do that. I've gotten past the sort of, I'm guessing, midway point where a bunch of stuff changes and you can now go and get a whole bunch of the other characters. And I've gotten one of them. And of course, before we got to that point, I was like, I want to pair up as many characters as I can. And I had forgotten how cringy all of the proposal conversations are. Because it's often like, we've had 3 conversations about the same thing, let's get married. Oh, okay, sure. Like one of them was literally last time we talked, you told me for hours about how you love this other person. Will you marry me? And they go, okay, I might as well. It's like, okay, sure. Like that would happen. Yep.
Why not?
Yeah. So that's been interesting. Um, I mean, it's cool having so much stuff where all the many, many, many different characters can interact with a large set of other characters. But the actual um, marriage stuff, everyone I've run across has been cringy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the games I've been playing.
The supports are kind of whack, as it turns out. Um, Fire Emblem Awakening is kind of a whack game,
And
but I love that about
thing
it.
is weird too.
You still, oh my god, still on about the feet.
They're like weird. They're like horse people with two legs.
All the concept art has feet, and they didn't like.
I know.
We've talked about this.
It still
Technical
weird.
restriction, technically, but then they did it. They fixed it in Fates.
And also, like
so
every other game has feet.
Yeah.
Technical restrictions.
Well, they were. This was around the launch of the 3DS. To be fair,
Is there any other 3DS game, even around launch, that has no feet?
Couldn't tell you. I haven't played enough of that library.
Fair enough. I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
I'm also pretty sure, but you know, c'est la vie.
But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Yeah, I actually want to. Fire Emblem Awakening is like I've revisited it like a little bit recently.
Mm-hmm.
I might have talked about this on the show again, but I'm going to talk about it again. Overwatch and Fire Emblem Awakening wouldn't seem to be like linked together, but lo and behold, I've managed to do just that. Because here's the thing, Overwatch gave me a lot of the like language that I found useful in developing my strategy in Fire Emblem Awakening. And it was like my first exposure to that kind of like language. Like Overwatch categorizes its characters into 4 categories: offense, defense, tank, and support. And when I stopped looking at like all the individual classes that Fire Emblem has, and then started looking at like started breaking them down into, okay, so like my cavalry is my offense, tanks would be like knights and the variants of knights, and plus stronger warriors, stuff like that. Anyone with a huge health pool. Supports, probably a couple of the like dark mages, healers, dancers. And then that language allowed me to start like kind of forming better team composition, because I was now thinking, well, I have like this much offense and I've got tanks in case this is happening. I don't have a support with them. I should throw at least one support with them to make sure that everything like remains good. And like having that language accessible to me has been a bit of it was a bit of a game changer for Fire Emblem Awakening. Super into that.
I really like how movement is quite a big thing in that game. How the different classes move differently over different terrain, but you can pair them together so that one character gets another character's movement benefits.
Yeah. So like the first example I think you run into that is Pegasus Knight.
Yeah.
Because they can move basically regardless of terrain. So if you pair up a unit with them, you could send them off into the distance and drop a unit behind enemy lines. Suddenly, your whole strategy can shift.
Yeah,
because you've just moved so quickly.
If you've got a chain of people, you can actually like conveyor belt someone along as well by transferring them from one person to the next. So if necessary, and you're set up correctly, you can make someone go really far in one turn, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. Plus, you can have. Plus, you get all the support bonuses as units are paired together, or just fight close. So then you get those whack support conversations that we were talking about. Good times. Yeah, I'm writing a small piece about that because I think that's kind of interesting that Overwatch has given me the language to more effectively strategize with Fire Emblem.
It's really interesting how language can have that sort of effect.
Yeah, and I mean, like it's also my first exposure to language like this. Like I know it's used in MMOs,
Yeah,
and in the process of writing this piece, I did a little bit of research into how that was handled by talking to people who play MMOs because I don't.
yeah.
Um, and found out like, oh yeah, this language has been like officially used in stuff like World of Warcraft for years.
There's
And then Overwatch kind of brought it into my field of vision.
there's other interesting ways as well that language can affect that sort of thing. There's a really interesting documentary that I might even have mentioned on the show before because it comes to my mind every now and then. About how different languages change how we perceive color by how we categorize them into words.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like language is a really powerful thing, I guess. So like I don't think I'd say I'm surprised that you've found that having access to that language has given you access to those strategies as well, but I definitely find it really interesting.
Yeah. I found it a pretty neat experience. So, hey, that's Fire Emblem. I also wanted to mention another thing I noticed about Mass Effect.
Yeah, as long as it's not spoilers.
It's not spoilers, but Kotaku today released a big report compiled over the past 3 years about Mass Effect Andromeda's development. Apparently, the bulk of the game was built over the 18 months leading up to it releasing.
So what was that thing about 3 years then?
Well, it's been in development for 5 years, but there was like full restarts of development. There was director changes. There was a whole whack of trouble that Andromeda ran into during its development.
Oh, interesting.
So it ended up being everything was rebuilt for Mass Effect Andromeda over the span of about 18 months. There was understaffed animation teams. There was just a whole whack of stuff that has gone awry with this development, and it's big and really interesting piece that I think you might also find interesting. I haven't fully gone over it, so I can't tell you if there's any spoilers.
This peek behind the curtain is something I tend to try to avoid with games that I don't want to see as the curtain, if that makes sense.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm real interested in kind of finishing this up and seeing how Mass Effect Andromeda kind of came to be in the state that it was, because it was in a bad place at launch. It's much better now, but
I mean, I didn't play it at launch, and like I said, the only gripe I've really had is, I wish there was more to the character creator.
yeah. I know another patch recently added more romance options.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it was the same one that added the character creator stuff.
Yeah, like, because Dude Riders had not had a lot of romance options. And probably still don't, but they have a couple more at least.
So it was just one more,
So that's
wasn't it?
good. Is it? Okay.
I think so.
I don't know.
I think it is. From the notes I read this afternoon, at least.
Let's see here. There was... Yeah, okay. This is the quote that I saw around, and I thought that this is kind of interesting, so I want to bring this up. From the article about Mass Effect Andromeda's development, no spoilers, by the way. While describing Frostbite, which is EA's internal engine, one top developer on Mass Effect Andromeda used the analogy of an automobile. Epic's Unreal Engine, that developer said, is like an SUV, capable of doing lots of things, but unable to go at crazy high speeds. Unity engine would be a compact car. It's small, weak, and easy to fit any place you'd like. Frostbite, that developer said, is a sports car. Not even a sports car, a Formula One. When it does something well, it does it extremely well. When it doesn't do something, it really doesn't do something. Which is kind of interesting, because I remember one of the central points that EA pitched when they were first saying, like, everything's going to be on Frostbite, was that every game as it was being developed would then benefit from, like, future games would benefit from it because it was just all being added into this, like, one toolkit. And so it seems like maybe that's not the reality, in that adding to Frostbite is a bit of a nightmare. It's kind of interesting.
Maybe. I don't know really anything about the engine, so I feel like can't have any comment.
That's fair. Also saying that the pain in the butt with Frostbite started with Dragon Age Inquisition, which is also kind of interesting.
Was it made on the same engine? They're both Frostbite, although presumably Andromeda will be like on an update, more.
Oh yeah, no, it's on a more up-to-date version of Frostbite, but both Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect Andromeda are on the Frostbite engine, as is like most of EA's library at this point. All the Need for Speed games, FIFA has been moved over to Frostbite.
It's weird
now.
to think that there's a bloody soccer game that's on the same engine as Mass Effect.
And like Battlefield has been on Frostbite. Like, it was the original Frostbite game.
Right.
I believe Frostbite was originally introduced with Bad Company 2. Maybe even Bad Company 1 was like the original version of that engine. And then I remember when it was announced, it was kind of a big deal that everything be running on Frostbite, because they had done such great work on the engine from like all the tech aspects since like Battlefield 4. And now it's causing a pain in the butt for studios like BioWare, which is... I don't know how I feel about that. I wonder how different of a game we would have got if it was running on kind of one of the more traditional engines, something like Unreal.
What were the Shepard trilogy games on?
Mass Effect 3 was on Unreal Engine 3. I think Mass Effect 2 was as well.
Okay. And
then Mass Effect 1 was on BioWare's in-house engine.
Right.
Yep. So, oh no, it wasn't. It was also Unreal. My bad. So, up until this point with Mass Effect Andromeda, they'd just been using the Unreal Engine. So I wonder if they hadn't been kind of forced to change tool sets. I wonder how that would have worked.
We may never know.
I don't think we will ever know. The game is out. Apparently the PS3 version of Mass Effect 2 also used the same engine as Mass Effect 3 later would.
I forget there even was a console version. I actually originally played the first Mass Effect on a console, I think.
Ah.
I think I did. Did I? Oh, it was so long ago.
I feel like most people who don't like Mass Effect 1 don't like it because they play it on a console, honestly. Because the PC version of Mass Effect is super good, but it's also the least liked entry in the series.
I think
I wonder if that's because it's like difficult to control on the console, because I know Dragon Age 2 also ran on consoles, and so did Dragon Age Origins, but people had problems running that with a controller.
I'm pretty sure I had different platforms between 1 and 2, because I couldn't import stuff on my first playthrough of 1 and 2. and then I got it on my second playthrough. But I can't remember exactly what console I must have got it on. Maybe got it on PS3 or something. But it was so many years ago now. I can't remember exactly.
Did you ever have an Xbox?
No, my brother did, but I never really played it. I don't think he got it until after I'd moved out, actually.
I don't think Mass Effect 1 was released on.
No, you're right. Actually,
PlayStation.
You're right. I can't remember then.
I think it was just on. I think it was just on. Yeah, it was just on Xbox 360.
Yeah, okay. I can't remember then. I don't think we had a 360.
Oh no! Well, no, misspoke.
Oh,
it's absolutely out on. It was absolutely out on PS3. Okay. So it might have been that.
Maybe it was that then. Either way, it was a while ago.
It would have been ages ago.
I saw the other day. What was it called? There was a new game either out now or coming out that, you know, when you open Steam it'll like promote a bunch of games to you. That looks really interesting to me.
And what is this?
I think it was called, I'm just opening Steam to see if I can find it again. I think it was called The Long Journey Home.
Ah, yes, I have heard of this.
Yeah, it looks really good to me.
Yeah, I looked at
it. It's like, I mean, of course it does, because it's a space game that has some element of orbital mechanics in it, even if it's only a small part. But it looks really cool. I watched a couple of the videos for it, which were nicely done as like official training videos kind of stuff for how to pilot your spaceship. Find it again.
One other game that might interest you as well is Everspace.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one. Oh yeah, so The Long Journey Home it got released, I think is why it was promoted to me.
It's side-scrolling, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, although it's got a few modes. One is like an orbital view kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So on a 2D plane. I think there's... Well, I suppose side-scrolling is on a 2D plane, isn't it? But it's like...
Yes.
Omnidirectional, I don't know. And then there are more side-scrolling modes. But it looks cool. The art style looks kind of neat. It's still not... It's not inexpensive. It's 55 New Zealand dollars at the moment.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm interested.
Everspace, the one I mentioned a little earlier, is like a... piloting a ship kind of simulator.
Mm-hmm.
It's a roguelike, so deaths mean you get restarted in a new kind of area. That's also just had its full release. It's just come out of early access.
Oh yeah? I'm having a look at the screenshots now. It looks like planes in space.
A little bit like Planes in Space, I think.
Roguelike, I'll be honest, roguelike stuff has never really appealed to me. A bunch of games I've really liked have been roguelike games, but I've kind of liked them like in spite of that, I think. Games like FTL, where I really liked the gameplay, but I wish it wasn't always so bloody hard. Whereas the idea is, you know, fail quick and learn from it. I prefer to just learn from it, but not have to start again. I don't know.
Oh, that's fair enough.
Like I've mentioned a few weeks ago, I think that nice feeling where you can come to a game and realize, oh, I've built this kind of thing. Where you got a game like Stellaris or Minecraft or Mountain Blade, where over a long time, several play sessions, you'll end up with something substantial that took time to make, and you can just look at it and go, I made that, and it's quite a nice feeling. Or City Skylines kind of stuff, right?
Even more literally. I've spent a lot of time kind of building up my cities, and I've become like increasingly proud of the like systems that are in place supporting them.
Yeah, that pride's a nice feeling in a video game, eh? Kerbal Space Program's another
really
good one for it. Oh, Kerbal Space Program got abducted. Well, that's not the right word. They got picked up by a publisher.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Take-Two bought them.
So is that looking like it might have a console release?
They might already, honestly, I think. Well, I think they've already been thinking about it, or working on it at least. Let me just find this again. Sorry, I've read about it since our last episode, but it was, in the last 2 weeks. Oh, their site's different now.
There is a
There's a console
there
version?
is a different console version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought there might be. Yeah.
It is Take-Two Interactive that has purchased Kerbal Space Program.
So the gist is they're going to keep developing it as planned, but hey, now they've got a publisher, so makes funding a bit easier.
Yeah, that's
pretty
kind of
cool.
big.
Yeah, so that's exciting, and also means I guess be a bit more optimistic about it in a slightly longer term. I mean, I'm not thinking Kerbal Space Program 2 because I think they're still happy adding stuff to Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah, they're
as it
working
is.
on an expansion right
But
now.
yeah, it was making history. I think they're calling it.
Yes, that's correct.
And they've just released a bunch of localization stuff, so it's out in a bunch of new languages now, which is quite neat.
Huh.
Yeah, so that was a cool little bit of news.
Yeah. Also cool in games right now, Polygon just launched a handful of sister sites, which I thought was kind of neat.
Sister sites. How do you mean?
So, subsites of Polygon focused on specific games.
Oh, specific games. Like Overwatch
Yes.
and stuff. I'm guessing ones with big communities.
Yes. So, Overwatch is the big one.
Yeah.
Plus, they have one for Dota 2 and one for League of Legends, both of which are pretty big esports.
Yeah.
Much as I may not like them,
games,
which I do. I don't like League of Legends. I don't like Dota 2. I do like Overwatch.
I can't
So
stand
it's-
the MOBA genre. I find it incredibly boring for me to play. Other people play it and enjoy it. That's great. That's wonderful. But I don't. Anyway.
Nah, for sure, yeah. Yeah, so
So is that
video
a
games.
focus on esports then? Because the three games you've mentioned are all big community-based competition games.
There's a bit of an esports focus, but it's also focused on stuff like going into the patch notes and figuring out like what's changed, how the balance is shifting, covering cosplay, covering the community, covering like general events.
Okay.
Like right now, the top of the Overwatch one is like Overwatch is getting double XP this weekend, which is also super cool, and that's gonna be my weekend.
Yeah. Actually, I think Mass Effect 3 used to do that. I wonder if Andromeda will do anything like that.
I would imagine.
I don't think they have yet. I've been a little wary because in the last news update they had, which was for a new mission, and they do some sort of in-universe writing for the news. There was something that was like, oh, is that gonna be a story spoiler that it's touching on because it sounds like it might be, or is it not? I don't know. I was kind of wary of playing more multiplayer in case they added like a new character that would give something away in the story. There was like a hint that might happen, and I don't know if that's going to give something away in the single player story that I haven't got to yet, or if it's something they're hinting at but nothing will happen, or something that'll be multiplayer only. And I got wary, and I thought I won't play anymore for a bit, and then that didn't happen, so I just kept playing more. Spoiler avoidance won't even keep me away.
I know.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to getting my bloody power cable though, because then I can play more of the single player.
And you can actually play video games.
Well, Mass Effect single player is really the one that it's holding me back from. I just really want to play more of that, but I feel like I could play it now. I could start up my desktop and I could play it, but I want to take screenshots and I want them to be a good resolution and the aspect ratio to match my other screenshots.
Here's an idea, because you have a PlayStation and you have access to a copy of Persona 5. Why don't you play Persona 5 while you wait for your power cable?
Because one narrative-based game is enough for me.
Fair enough.
And
Is
yeah,
Persona 5 even on your radar? Planning on doing it?
I don't know. I mean, I see my flatmate playing it sometimes. I don't honestly know if it appeals that much to me. Is the thing.
Fair enough. I mean, I've gotten people into Persona 5 also, and it's their first Persona game, and they're really enjoying it. They got super into it.
I mean, I totally understand that I might one day pick it up for a bit and realize I love it, and I'm open to that. That's fine. But partly because it hasn't captured my interest now, and partly because I kind of don't want to risk that while I'm also in the midst of another game I'm really enjoying. I'm not planning on picking it up anytime soon.
That's fair. Well, this weekend and beyond, what are you looking forward to playing? Got anything in mind?
Oh, I just want to play more Mass Effect. Give me my power cable, please. Like, I'm just really hoping it gets delivered tomorrow so that I can play stuff on the weekend. It probably won't, but if it won't, it'll almost certainly be next week.
Eyes of a desperate man.
I mean, I can play other games in the meantime because my desktop's working. It doesn't have as many installed, but like I've got good internet, I can install them. It's fine. I'll probably play more
Play
Awakening.
some more Stellaris.
It's quite nice and episodic.
What was this, sorry?
A Fire Emblem Awakening.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can start it up and be like, oh, these random battles have popped up. I'll do 2 of them and a story mission, and that'll be me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite nice. Honestly, though, I think a big part of what I'm going to be doing over the weekend is more building on my D&D campaign. I've been feeling really into it after the last couple of sessions and getting some neat ideas. And the fact now that I've got the capacity to introduce sound and visuals for my players means I'm going to be trying to find some more fitting concept art I can show them, and using that mynoise.net site to mix together a few more atmospheres that I can add to the collection I've got that I'm going to be using in them, so I can have like a library to pull from.
Right.
As well as just like, actually planning out campaign stuff as well. I was really happy the other night. I found like the perfect piece of art for the city that they'd just arrived in. And I had one already that I was like, it's kind of close enough. But the actual landscape was wrong, even though the city looked right. But then I just found one that was like, oh wow, this is like perfect. And I was really happy when that happens. And my brother, who is an artist himself, put me on to a few artists to look up because he thought that their work might have some really neat stuff. So I've got that to look into as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so those games. And I'm sure I'll do more Mass Effect multiplayer. I'm probably going to do more Mass Effect multiplayer tonight if my flatmate's up for some. I don't know what he's up to though. But I've played it almost exclusively with him actually because it's nice. I've mentioned before, it means that one of us can host easily and we don't need to worry about connection issues. And there's one less person need to worry about getting into a match. We're both at a place where together, so long as we're not playing really low level characters, we can, just the 2 of us, finish a bronze match. So
right.
That's a nice bit of security to have. If it's just 2 of us, it might get a bit tough, but hey, that's fun too. What about you? What are you looking forward to playing?
Well, I got that Overwatch Double XP weekend to
course.
look forward to. I had a Titanfall 2 one last weekend.
Oh yeah?
So I got back into Titanfall 2. I'm still on that. It's still super good.
Mm-hmm.
They just added a new Titan to the multiplayer. So I've played around with that a little bit.
How does that work? What sort of different functionalities do they have?
So I'll give you a couple examples of the ones that I've played the most, because to be honest, I haven't played this new one.
Okay.
The big feature of this new one is as it gets as you fight, you build up what's called your core of your Titan, and then you can use a very powerful ability when your core is full.
How do you build it up? Is it a time based, or how many points you get from certain things?
It's time based and damage based as well.
Okay, so
the more damage you're doing to other Titans, the more your core meter is going to build up.
Right.
But as you build your core, this new Titan has 3 different cores that you can get, based on how many times you can fill up your core meter successively. So the most powerful move you can get is at that 3rd core.
That's if you're basically saving up your power before you use it.
Oh no! It's you have to build it up once, use it, build it up again, use it, build it up again, and then you get that final core.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of the appeal of this new one. The trick is managing to last that long.
Right.
But other Titans, the one that I run with the most is called the Ronin.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a big sword. and moves very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it easy to like get into position to do attacks. It's got a shotgun as a like primary weapon, and then the sword. So you can move in and move out quite quickly. Some of them have got like thermite that launches, so you can control areas of space where Titans can't stand. Otherwise, they're getting hurt.
Is that sets fire on things or something?
Yeah, like sets a lasting damage, and thermite burns through metal. So you're going to be doing damage to Titans and pilots alike.
Okay.
Quite hot. Some of them have kind of more traditional, like just gun is their main thing.
Yeah.
There's a sniper class. There's stuff like that. Like
Okay.
all of these Titans have different functions. It's quite cool to play around with. The new stuff is quite cool. I do need to play with it more though to like fully get it.
Sure.
Titanfall 2 is a good game. Don't miss it. Don't miss it, people. The story mode is so good.
How's the community lasting? Because the game's been out for a while now, right?
Yeah, it's when I've been online, it's pretty regularly got a few thousand people playing it.
Oh, you can tell how many exactly. Well, or
Yep,
actually...
it tells you how many players are online.
Okay, I've always wondered that with Mass Effect, but it doesn't really tell you.
Nah, Titanfall 2 generally on the PS4 qualifier on the PS4 generally hangs out around kind of 4,000 or 5,000 when I'm playing.
Okay,
So it's quite active. I'm surprised.
how long's it been out for now again?
October of last year?
Okay, I thought it had been longer somehow.
Titanfall 2 released October 28th, 2016. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Literally a week after Battlefield 1, EA's kind of other big shooter.
That's kind of like how Overwatch and Battleborn came out at the same time, and one took off and the other got forgotten entirely.
Battleborn has actually just gone free to play, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, really? Okay,
Other than its like story mode, they're keeping the story mode for people who own it, but they have just released a build which allows for anyone to kind of pick up and play it for as much as they want to in the multiplayer modes, with a limited selection of heroes.
Okay.
Very similar to what League of Legends does, in that it has a rotation of heroes that you can play for free, but you can also you can quote unquote own them through getting some in-game currency. I don't know if Battleborn's going to take that same approach. Well, I think that's the show, isn't it?
Yeah, what was it I was going to say? Damn it. Feels like it was
I'll leave it haunting you for a moment, and I'll wrap up.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all good. If you figure it out, let me know.
I will.
I'm going to wrap up real quick, though.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. This has been episode 42 of PauseCast. If you like the show and would like to support it financially, you can do so for as little as $1 a month by going to patreon.com/PauseCastShow. The show can be found on various forms of social media. I sound like such a complete doofus saying the words social media out loud. You can find us on
just
Twitter.
say online, right?
Yeah, you can find us in the online, people. We're on twitter.com/PauseCastShow. We're on facebook.com/PauseCastShow. We're basically anywhere that you could want to get in contact with us. We're PauseCast Show.
Postal address is PauseCast Show.
Yeah, postal address is just PauseCast Show. And that's it. If you send it, the mail people know where to take it. No,
it'll arrive, but we won't open it. Who sends snail mail anyway?
I mean, apparently the people who are sending you your power cable, so don't diss it. Otherwise, you've just cursed yourself, and now your power cable will take another week to get there.
I mean, I asked them to send it, so I don't mind.
Okay. Mark.
Yes.
You're online. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter as well. I'm on Twitter at Honest Universe, and I blog as well, but not about video games at honestuniverse.com. What about you?
Find me on. Yeah, you can find me online. I'm Cockatiel Cutie, basically everywhere. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Tumblr. I'm on Tumblr at bird.school. If you wanted to go check that out. I've got some writing stuff that's happening this week as well, which is pretty exciting. This weekend, Saturday, I am going to be, and this is also probably going to be bonus content for the show. Guess what? I'm going to be interviewing the creators of Read Only Memories, Mid-Boss. More specifically, I believe I'm talking to Matt Kahn, who also is the head of the GamerX events. So I am quite excited to talk to him about that.
Oh, bet. Sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I think I caught all that. You've been dropping out a lot, but that sounds really exciting.
I'm thrilled. I am super duper thrilled. And I've got some interesting questions about kind of read-only memories and its sense of identity that I want to tap into. So look forward to that. It's gonna be probably up on Twitter. The full audio will probably be up on the PauseCast Patreon. Be up for a month, just like our interview with Bobby Schroeder was. And then it'll go public. But for now, I'm not sure yet if that's going to see a release. We'll see. And that's kind of my big exciting thing. Also, writing a bit about Overwatch and how it's given me that language to communicate and strategize. I touched on that a little earlier. So I'm going to be writing about that, and that'll be up on my Twitter and stuff. And this week I wrote about photo modes and how they change how we play video games. It's been
where can we find that? Is that on bird.school?
It's not on bird.school. It's on my Medium account, and I don't know exactly how to link Medium accounts. Let me quickly see.
You can put it in the show notes.
I can put it in the show notes. Yeah, it's medium.com/@cockatielcutie. Is where you can find that.
Awesome.
And it's up on my Twitter. I've got it posted all over the place. So
nice.
Enjoy that. Enjoy online. Thanks for joining us this week.
Music.
Music. Yep. Good. Thank you. Our music is Honey Milk Island by Leon. Leon recently launched the album Bird World, which is really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I recommend giving it a listen. You can find Leon's music and download Honey Milk Island for free at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. That's the show. 42 episodes. We've answered life, the universe, and everything in this episode, I'm sure. Sorry, that's my only knowledge of the Hitchhiker's Guide. I'm very sorry.
Right, the first one's the only one you really need to read.
Yeah, I know. I've heard as much. It's just a matter of sitting down and actually reading. Thanks for listening to the show, and we will see you next week.